Good morning. What is up? And welcome to Monday's Hangxiety. This is Club Fantasy's weekly reaction show. That's right, baby. We are back for the playoffs. Maybe less fantasy talk, but let's be honest, there's still going to be fantasy talk. You have a little bit less to gripe about, but we're going to have plenty of football to talk about. With me, as always, my co-host, Josh Hudson, probably way less hungover. No Eagles game this week. How you doing today?
I only had like 3 drinks yesterday. It was actually kind of a good Sunday. Not gonna lie.
There you go. You woke up feeling like Ryan this morning, just refreshed, ready to go. Well, the first of these playoff changes is we have a guest, Chris Molina, who was not able to join us for our accountability shows on Thursday, said, I have a holiday off. Let's talk some football on Martin Luther King Day. And happy Martin Luther King Day to all those out there. Chris, how you doing today, buddy?
Yes, happy MLK Day to everyone. I'm doing good. It's a good day to talk some football. I'm glad to have a day off with y'all.
Yeah, perfect timing of the whole thing. Day off, end of wild card weekend. We're going to talk about the entire wild card weekend. We have a whole show structure based around those games, but I'm going to get started with some coaching changes. So the Texans went ahead and fired Lovie Smith. Arizona's going to move on from Cliff Kingsbury. He's gone. He's moving to Thailand, apparently. The Denver Broncos obviously moved on from Nathaniel Hackett. Indianapolis Colts with Frank Reich. Carolina Panthers with Matt Rule. Sean McVay, after debating, is going to return for the Rams next season, and I have a prediction around that. And then is Brandon Staley on the hot seat after that wild card collapse? This is one we're going to talk about, obviously, because that game's going to come up a little bit later. The Jets have parted ways with Matt LaFleur at offensive coordinator, and Scott Turner fired with the Washington Commanders, which I think is going to be the first time in a lot of years that a Turner isn't running the offense in Washington. So that's going to be
feels that way. Yeah.
And then Josh, this is a wonderful note. CBS Sports is saying that the Commanders are going to tell offensive coordinator candidates to go into 2023 preparing with Sam Howell as their QB1.
I read this and I'm like, we've got to bring this up because I know Chris is going to be on the show, and Chris was a big Sam Howell guy heading into last year's draft. And he ended up sliding all the way to the 5th round. So, Chris, give us a little insight here on Sam Howell. What do you like? How does he fit? I mean, obviously, we got a little tease in week 17 with what Howell can do. Do we see growth here in 2023?
I hope so. He was my number one QB of this last draft, above Desmond Ridder, Pickett, Malik Willis. I thought he was great in college. You know, he had a little down year for his final year, but if you look to see how many of his weapons graduated or declared for the draft in this last year. But anyways, it just pisses me off that they didn't do this sooner. After Carson Wentz went down, they're like, we got to go with my boy Taylor Heineke. After Taylor Heineke went down, it's like, let's try Carson Wentz again. It's just, Washington was a mess, and I'm excited for Sam Howell's future now.
It's a eerily similar situation to what Atlanta found themselves in, where they were constantly competing for the playoffs, and they obviously thought the veterans were the ones that were going to get them over that hump and make the playoffs. But this was that weird year where it was debatable. Was it better to make the playoffs or just have a higher draft pick? You're not going to beat the 49ers and Eagles, bro. Let's just move on and see what we have in Sam Howell.
Desmond Ridder didn't look too bad either. He fed the ball to Drake London, and that's what we were asking for.
Exactly. I'm going to do a quick recap of the games, and I truly mean quick recap. Josh is in here adding all these notes for me, but the whole point of today's show is this weekend's game. So there were 2 games on Saturday. The 49ers first half struggles were just a mirage. They came back and dominated the Seattle Seahawks 41-23. Brock Purdy, 4 touchdowns in the game. I got to say, watching this kid throw the ball, and this is going to come up later, he looks legit. He has poise in the pocket. It doesn't look like bullshit to me, which is interesting. The Jaguars marked the 3rd largest comeback in NFL playoff history. 5 first-half turnovers and a 27-point deficit to win the game 31-30 on a Riley Patterson field goal. Trevor Lawrence, 4 picks in the first half, 3 TDs in the second half. Then on Sunday, there were 3 games. Buffalo holds off a scrappy Dolphins team with third-string quarterback Skylar Thompson, 34-31. Josh Allen, 352 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Diggs and Gabe Davis both eclipsed 100 receiving yards. The Giants averaged or avenged their man. I can't read today. The Giants avenged.
It's after 11 o'clock on the East Coast, Ryan. Why are you not awake yet, Mister?
I don't know, and I feel very awake. I
got 5 hours to wake up. Jesus.
I think the key here is maybe read these things before I start the show. But anyway, they avenged their Christmas Eve loss and beat the Minnesota Vikings 31-24. For those not lucky enough to be in a group chat with Josh and Joe Zolo, Joe fucking went in on Minnesota and basically said they and the Chargers are the biggest pieces of shit in the entire NFL. Daniel Jones went to town, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 78 rushing yards. I think I heard that he's the first quarterback to ever go for 300 and over 70 and 2 touchdowns or something like in the playoffs ever. So that was absolutely nuts. Saquon Barkley, 2 rushing touchdowns. The Bengals hold off the Ravens 24-17. Jamar Chase, 9 catches for 84 yards and a touchdown. Before we get into everything we are doing, Josh, tell the people about the sponsor of today's show.
Yes, this episode of Monday's Hangxiety brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the ultimate men's hygiene bundle, the Performance Package. The Performance Package from Manscaped includes the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver groin deodorant, the Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all of those goodies. Ryan, myself, our Wednesday co-host Joe Zolo, we're all gifted this Performance Package, and I got to tell you, it's absolutely fantastic. I love the trimmers themselves are waterproof, so it makes cleaning so much easier. The 4.0 trimmer helps reduce nicks, ingrown hairs, all of those things that are very common when it comes to trimming and grooming, especially for men. I mean, shit, the hair on my neck grows like 80 different ways, so I get ingrown hairs like crazy. So, just imagine how it is everywhere else in your body. So that is just fantastic. I'm always on the go with my job. The performance boxer briefs, the Crop Reviver toner, all of it just so great, so comfortable, and it just makes for a great Valentine's Day gift as we head into yet another made-up holiday, because that's what card companies and chocolate companies love to do. Yeah.
But if you're going to waste money on your significant other, at least help our show out.
Exactly. We like that. So with that said, head over to manscaped.com. Use promo code CLUBFANTASY at checkout and save 20% and get free shipping. So join over 5 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer. As I mentioned, go to manscaped.com, enter promo code CLUBFANTASY, save 20% and get free shipping at manscaped.com.
Boom. Love it. Great job, Josh. So like I said, guys, we're going to do the show a little differently. Normally it's just a 100% fantasy focused show and we give our thoughts. This time, there's not a ton of fantasy. Obviously, you should be playing DFS. Make sure you're reading Austin's article every week. We're going to go game by game. And so the first game we're going to talk about is Seattle and San Francisco. And this game obviously ended up being a blowout. San Francisco wins the game by 18 points, 41-23. We're going to keep some of our segments alive. And the first segment we're going to call the Hangover. It's going to be the biggest head scratcher of the game. And we're going to kind of break this down by person and just kind of interact with each other. Chris, what would you say the biggest head scratcher of the San Francisco-Seattle game was?
So many to choose from, but not in the normal sense that these players did horribly. It's more like what to expect from San Francisco's offense moving forward as a whole. My biggest head scratch is, are they going to go with Trey Lance next year, or are they going to finally make the switch and go with Brock Purdy? We've heard a lot of chatter in the community. Shout out to Luke. He's a big Trey Lance fan. But how do you not keep Brock Purdy as your starting QB? That's my head scratcher.
Yeah.
He's looked good.
If they win the Super Bowl, they have to, right? Like that ends this discussion. He at least gets first crack at the job next year, right?
Yeah. I mean, Super Bowl slam dunk. I don't see anyone other than maybe Philly taking him down. So I don't know.
I mean, that's how I predicted the NFC is it was going to come down to San Fran and Philly, which is obviously an easy prediction. They're the top 2 teams in the NFC, but I still
especially the way that, the matchups are shaping up, right?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, Philly's already beat the Giants twice this year. Yes, I understand week 18 was kind of a gimme because the Giants rested some of their starters, but I mean, that was kind of a warm-up game really for Hurts, coming off 2 missed games via injury, getting his bearings back. Now he's, supposedly, healthy with the shoulder. Maybe some more design runs, maybe just being more selective with said design runs. But Jalen Hurts has proven that he can pick apart the Giants defense. And now you've got San Francisco, who apparently, by everybody's, estimation, is the quote unquote best team in the NFC.
Yeah.
They should very easily dispose of, either the Cowboys or the 49ers, right? Then you're just setting up for San Francisco to travel cross country to Philadelphia to show that Brock Purdy isn't a 7th round rookie quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. The last pick of the draft. I'm Brock Purdy. I don't know Brock Purdy's financial situation, but if I win the Super Bowl, I have to consider retiring undefeated.
Because it's not going to get any better.
Undefeated, win the Super Bowl. Who argues that I'm the greatest quarterback to ever play football? Because ain't nobody matching what I've done ever again. That's just me, and that's me being facetious. But I like what you said there, Chris, and that was the question I was going to kind of put you guys on the spot with, is you're the GM of the 49ers. How are you handling your quarterback room? You have Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy. Josh, I'm going to ask you first because I think I know where you're going to go with it.
I mean, at this point, you're sticking with Purdy. I don't think that there's really any sense of moving off of that. Like, I understand you gave up a ton of draft capital for Trey Lance, but this is a team that's really starved for draft capital, right? I understand they have a ready-made Super Bowl contending roster, so, they don't necessarily have holes, but the salary cap comes a calling, right?
Yeah.
You need to continually, stockpile depth at key positions, especially because there's going to be some of these starters that at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to re-sign to second contracts. They're starting right tackle, Mike McGlinchey. He's going to be a free agent after this year. 49ers, as they currently stand, have $17.6 million in salary cap space. That Christian McCaffrey contract that is a bargain right now skyrockets next year for 2023. He's going to be making that $16 million, which is his average annual value. Brandon Ayuk is up for an extension. You have to sign Mike McGlinchey. You've got guys on the defense that you need to re-sign. So why not see what you can get for Trey Lance, who, again, you gave up 2 first-round picks to move up to get, who by all means is still a very unproven talent, but still a lot of, scouts and executives across the league had high hopes for. If you could get a 2nd round pick, maybe another mid-round draft pick for Trey Lance and ride it out with Brock Purdy, why would you not do that? I feel like that to me makes the most sense for what this team and how they're built going forward.
Chris, same question.
I like what George Cook is saying in the comments, specifically about Jimmy G. I agree. They don't really have a need for Jimmy G at this point. It's Trey Lance, it's Brock Purdy. And I do think you shop Trey Lance because at this point, it's getting at borderline sunk cost fallacy here. I understand that he cost them a ton of draft capital, but he's 1 in 4 as a starter. He lost to the Bears week 1 this year.
Let's not forget about that loss.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight that. So he hasn't done anything to actually earn the job. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy has. So if you can't get good draft capital from him, I think at least it's got to be a quarterback competition in training camp next year between the two of them.
So Josh, you kind of hit on this. Now, I'm someone who doesn't like combining mobile quarterback and immobile quarterback, to where I think the Purdy Garoppolo thing makes more sense for the 49ers because then you don't got to worry about changing your offense. Though I can't say that I know if they plan on changing their offense around Trey Lance because he should have an arm. But Josh, you kind of touched on this. And I guess this is more a question from the Texans' standpoint versus drafting a quarterback at 102. What if the Texans offer the 32nd or 33rd pick of the draft because of the Dolphins losing their 1st round pick? What if the Texans offer the 33rd pick of the draft for Trey Lance? Is that enough for the 49ers? And is that a better move for the Texans because they can fill another hole at 102 and then move on with Trey Lance as their quarterback?
It's definitely an option. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever new coach comes in, how do they feel about Trey Lance? How do they feel about, Bryce Young or CJ Stroud if he ends up declaring for the draft? Because today
he did just declare.
He did just declare. Okay,
Yes.
because I saw
Adam
that
Schefter
Addison
just
did.
tweeted.
We were still waiting on the news from Stroud. So okay, so how do they feel about Young, Stroud, potentially Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, right? And how does Trey Lance stack up against those guys? That's really the biggest question there. Trey Lance, if I could get a high second round pick, I'm definitely considering that deal. I would prefer to try to get, a couple of late round picks. I mean, we know that San Francisco is pretty good about getting a lot of comp picks, especially from people plucking the Shanahan coaching tree and his assistants. D'Amico Ryans is getting some love in this coaching cycle. He's likely to be gone. Some of their executives to move on. And what I love about the San Fran organization is that they're giving opportunities to minority coaches too. And with this new addendum to the Rooney Rule, that's where they're getting all of these comp picks from. So, maybe getting those mid-round picks isn't the deal breaker. But yeah, if I could get a high second round pick for Trey Lance, I'm making that move. And if I'm the Texans, I definitely consider it because, they need help on defense. I mean, their best edge rusher is Jerry Hughes, and he's what, 55? Like the dude's ancient.
Is he that young?
Right? Feels like he's been in the league for 50 years. So, but no, then you can take these high end picks and leave the quarterbacks to fall, which is kind of what we saw last year. Like teams weren't reaching for quarterbacks the way that they have in years past because
that was my thought.
There wasn't that like generational talent. And quite honestly, I think there's good quarterbacks in this class. I don't think there's a generational talent. I think all of these guys have question marks throughout all of their games. So it doesn't make a ton of sense to, give up an exponential amount of draft capital and or players to move up to get one of these guys.
I love that you bring this up because this is one of my favorite aspects of dynasty football is all last year. We're like, the quarterbacks suck this year, but just wait till next year. And then the year happened and we're like, they're good. They're not generational. Speaking of dynasty, I'm going to quickly throw Austin up here. It's a great time to buy low on Trey Lance. It's hard to argue with the athleticism. Completely agree with that because he's going to be a starter somewhere, probably San Francisco, but he's going to get his crack. But someone way smarter than all of us, our buddy Marvin chimes in a super flex. Would you pay an early second round or more for Brock Purdy? Now, if you don't play super flex, quarterbacks are infinitely valuable in super flex football. Second round pick feels rough to me. So I'm going to quickly throw out there, Josh, there was a trade in a dynasty that we are in together where someone traded a 1, and I didn't see how late it was or if it's a future one, for Geno Smith and 2 3s. And I thought that was absolutely nuts to make that trade.
Well, I'm the one who got the 109 in that deal, so it worked out perfect.
Yeah. There you go. See, I didn't even pay that much attention to it. I thought that was nuts to pay a 109 for Geno Smith. I could not fathom making that trade.
Yeah, so it was the 109 and a 12 team for Geno Smith, the 301 and the 307. That was the ultimate deal. So I got the first and I gave up the 2/3 in Geno. I mean, I don't hate it because, again, like the way that this offense is set up, Brock Purdy has so many weapons. I mean, I could definitely see, even 2 seconds for Brock Purdy, I think is a pretty fair value in Superflex. If it was, an early second this year, a projected mid to late second in 2024, or even, another late second this year. Again, I mean, you're banking on, Purdy being that guy. And that's why I would say, a second or even multiple seconds, I think is fair value just for the prospect that, he could legitimately be that guy. I mean, what are we talking now? 6 straight starts where he's had 2+ throwing touchdowns is the only rookie quarterback in NFL history to achieve that. Yeah. There's something to be said about that. And, Shanahan's making it happen with him. So
I have a question about these trades. Was it the league I'm in too? Because I don't remember this trade.
No. This is one that Ryan and I are in.
Yeah, no.
Follow-up question. when did this trade go down? Was it trade deadline? Oh, a few days ago. Okay, I was thinking more like someone needed a starting quarterback for a late playoff push.
No.
But there's no guarantee that Geno Smith is going to be a starting QB next year. So that kind of changes my analysis. I think I would give up maybe a mid-second round pick right now for Brock Purdy. If we knew he was the starter, it would probably be a late first round.
Oh, if we knew he was the starter, I'm not even asking this question because that kind of brings into question Austin here, and I don't want to spend too much more time on the 49ers. We still have things to talk about in this game. But if someone's offering a second for Trey Lance, I don't think that's the market. If we're talking about a second for Brock Purdy or multiple twos for Brock Purdy, and we're talking about the 109 for Geno Smith, I don't think the market, unless you're in a very soft league, and I hate to even call leagues out like that, unless you're in a soft league, I don't see Trey Lance moving for a second if the current market on Geno Smith and Brock Purdy are early twos, late ones. So
I can't give away Trey Lance in a super flex league for a second right now. I've tried. Trust me. I have tried, and nobody's budging.
Do you have him in that league we were talking about? I mean, I don't.
No,
have
I
second.
don't.
We know I don't have
one
a second.
that I'm in with Chris.
Yeah.
For I guess context, I was able to trade away Trey Lance at about the deadline. It was probably around week 7. I got what turned out to be the 106 and Jacoby Brissett, which I needed a few weeks of a starting QB at that time for Trey Lance. So
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving. Next one we're going to keep running with this show is the shot of espresso, the quality performance from the game that got our juices flowing. Josh, I'm going to let you go in on this. We're not even going to react to it.
I'll try to make this quick. I mean, for me, it's easy to plug in Brock Purdy here, over 300 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, including a rushing touchdown. But I'm going to give this one to Deebo Samuel. I've been very critical of Deebo. I thought that the contract was a little overblown. I personally like Brandon Ayuk better, just from a talent at wide receiver. I understand the dynamic ability that Deebo Samuel brings to this offense, but in my opinion, Christian McCaffrey does the exact same thing, and he does it better. So I just felt like, making that trade for CMC, and then, after giving all of that money to Deebo Samuel, you've now backed yourself into a corner to kind of make a decision between those two, because I don't know. But Deebo led the team with targets with 9, 6 catches, 133 yards, a touchdown. He added 32 rushing yards. Shanahan's game plan was perfect. Seattle is one of the bottom 3 teams in the league in rush defense, and they said, we're going to attack you. And CMC put up 119 yards. Deebo got sprinkled in 3 carries, 32 yards. I mean, that's what you want from this offense. Like, we preach this all the time. Like, play callers need to exploit matchups. Shanahan did that to perfection this week, and shout out to Deebo for making him pay.
Yeah, that's exactly what you got to do. And of course, it wouldn't be this show without the chill the fuck out segment. For me, it's George Kittle. And normally we say this is for good or for bad. This is for good and for bad. Obviously, Kittle was elite after Brock Purdy took over. He was easily looking like the tight end 2 in fantasy, again, just behind Kelsey, maybe even the tight end 1. 7 touchdowns in 4 games is hard to argue with. However, there were red flags. The first is this most recent game. Deebo gets involved. Kittle all of a sudden only sees 2 targets. The other one is the obvious that we've been talking about for 20 minutes now. Brock Purdy may not be the quarterback, and is Trey Lance going to lean on Kittle the way that Brock Purdy clearly has? However, don't chill the fuck out too hard on him, because 11 touchdowns this season, we used to bust Kittle's balls about not being able
more
to
than
touchdowns.
Double his career high.
Exactly. That's what you want to see. And in fantasy, it's all that matters. He is definitely a top 5 fantasy tight end. I just don't know, 1, if he's the tight end 2, or 2, if he's going to be worth the draft capital it's going to cost to get him. This is something we've been talking about for ages. Where are you willing to spend a quarterback? So that's kind of my chill the fuck out for the game. But we're going to take it always back to fantasy one last time. And Chris, we're going to give you the final fantasy takeaway from this game, San Francisco and Seattle.
I'm going to throw out there someone we haven't talked about yet. DK Metcalf. He had 10 receptions for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. I wrote an article about him at the beginning of the season saying, be wary of DK Metcalf. If Geno Smith is the QB, he should be a mid wide receiver too. But, if it was I'm forgetting their backup's name.
Drew Lock.
Drew Lock. Then all hands off deck. But DK Metcalf, if he's going again with Geno Smith into next year, I mean, he looked pretty good all year. He had 90 receptions. He kind of transformed his game more from just like a deep threat to more of a possession receiver. And I think he might be a value next year going into drafts.
Yep. Next game couldn't have been really more opposite of the first game. The first game was kind of exciting in the first half, got way out of hand in the second half. The next game was almost boring in the first half in a sense, but man, did it get exciting in the second half. We have the Chargers at Jacksonville. This game ended up ending on a field goal. It was a tale of two halves. Josh, talk to us about the head scratcher of this game. Oh, you're muted there, buddy, or your mic went out.
He's just so excited.
The Chargers, excuse me. What in God's name were the Chargers doing in the last 30 minutes of this game? You have a 27-0 lead right before half. Going into half, you give up a late touchdown, you're up 20 points. Why are you letting the foot off of the gas? More importantly, you created 5 turnovers in the first half of that game. 5. And you gave up 24 points and scored only 3 in the second half of this game. What are we doing? This is on play calling all throughout, whether it was on the defensive side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball. You cannot tell me you have a 6'6", big-armed quarterback in Justin Herbert, and you can't score more than 3 fucking points on a team that you hung 27 on in the first half. This makes 0 sense to me. Absolutely 0 sense. Brandon Staley was the most aggressive head coach in the NFL in 2021. Yeah. By all accounts, it cost them a playoff spot last year. He goes into this game and just says, you know what? I got ridiculed so hard for being aggressive. So I'm going to take my foot off the gas and I'm going to be conservative. And you lose! You need to find the middle ground. This is just bad coaching all around. Bad coaching. I don't understand why we're on, what is this, 11:30 Monday morning on the East Coast, and Brandon Staley still has a fucking job. This is egregious. Absolutely
Chris,
egregious.
I wanted to swing that over to you. Brandon Staley gets fired. You, a diehard Rams fan, have just lost your offensive coordinator. Is Brandon Staley welcome back with open arms?
Not as offensive coordinator, as
he was a defensive coordinator for the
is he defense? Oh my God, I'm an idiot. Okay, well there you go. So.
I would welcome him back as.
Well, definitely don't take
the
him.
Rams do have a. They may lose Raheem Morris anyway.
Because
so.
I was so sick of Raheem Morris.
Well, I was going to say, don't bring him back as offensive coordinator because we saw that experiment with the Patriots, and that did not work out at all. So.
I wanted to piggyback off something. Just the poor coaching aspect of it. It would have probably been nice for the Chargers to have like their big 6 foot. What's Mike Williams at these days? 6'6".
6'5".
Yeah,
6'5", burner downfield, because
seems like he would have helped a little bit.
Yeah. Instead, he fractures his back in a meaningless game where their starters are playing into the fourth quarter. I don't know about that, but really Justin Herbert had like 43 attempts for 270 yards, just a measly 6 yards per attempt. That's probably factored into some of the conservative play calling. So it's just a bad situation all around.
For the shot of espresso, I'm going all in on Trevor Lawrence. How could it possibly not be? This is a career-defining game. I don't even care what happens next week. To do what he did in that first half and still be able to come back in and play football is just absolutely amazing. At one point in the game, he had 4 interceptions and 4 completions. He had an equal amount to each team, and he had more completed passes to Asante Samuel than any wide receiver on his team. That's nuts. And then he scores with 30 seconds left in the first half. He finishes the game, 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, spread the ball around like crazy. I believe Evan Ingram, Zay Jones, and Christian Kirk all had double-digit targets. Obviously, fantasy people would like to see Travis Etienne involved, but it just wasn't what this game was needed, and he ran the ball extremely well. But my favorite part about this is when I was digging into the Jaguars, and I had been kind of saying I thought Lawrence was really going to define himself with Doug Peterson this season. He makes the players around him better. This was the best fantasy season for Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram. And that doesn't even count the great game they just all had in the playoffs. That's the actual 2022 season that they had. I don't know what I'm fucking doing today, but the long and short of it is, Josh, you're going to talk more about him here in a little bit. Trevor Lawrence, career-defining game yesterday. Chris, there's a segment we do on this show. I know you've tuned in before. You just heard it in the last one. It's chill the fuck out. This is a player who is either not as good, not as bad. People just need to chill out on. Who do you have for this game?
So the easy one here would be Austin Eckler, 13 attempts for 35 yards. He did fall into the end zone a couple of times, but he only also had 4 targets. I would just throw the game out the window for Eckler in terms of targets and his rushing output. I wanted to also talk about Trevor Lawrence. If I'm playing a game of Madden and I throw 4 interceptions in the first quarter, I'm rage quitting that game.
Yeah, it's done.
I'm turning off the Xbox. I'm not playing Madden for like a month. So the fact that he turned this around, it just goes to his mental toughness. I wanted to throw that out there.
I could not agree more. So, Josh, keep it going on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I'll bring up this from George. I mean, he asked, is Trevor Lawrence's stock rise or fall after this performance? The short answer, Trevor Lawrence to the fucking moon, bro. Like I'm all on board with Trevor Lawrence. I never really faltered from him after a down rookie year with Urban Meyer, because let's face it, Urban Meyer's hot garbage, and he was set up for failure in year one. You bring in a head coach like Doug Peterson, a former quarterback, a guy that got the best out of Carson Wentz, when we now see really who Carson Wentz is as a quarterback. I think somebody like, Doug Peterson needs to be lauded for that, because that was fucking a miracle.
Keeping with our fourth co-host, George, this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about it. But here's the thing. Like, for me, I'm on board with Trevor Lawrence as a top 5 option in fantasy next year. I really am. I know, it's really easy to say, all right, well, Lamar fell off. Justin Fields and the rushing should bounce back. They're going to bring in some new weapons. Here's the thing that I saw this year, right? Pocket passers like Geno Smith, Joe Burrow, Kirk Cousins, Patrick Mahomes, they did really, really well in fantasy, right? Because, the guys that are relying on the 7, 8, 900 plus rushing yards, they're not getting it done enough through the air to really balance out what these guys can do through the air. They're throwing for 35 plus touchdowns. They're throwing for 4,500 plus yards. And that plays a big part in separating them from these running quarterbacks that I hate throwing this out simply because I feel like it's a fallacy, but
so then you should run it out.
these rushing quarterbacks, fair enough. These rushing quarterbacks are finding new ways to get hurt. And I understand that rushing or, pocket passers find ways to get hurt too. It's not hard. It's just the game that we play. But it just feels that when you're running the football as a quarterback, you're opening yourself up to more punishment. Yeah. Jalen Hurts missed 2 games. We've seen the Lamar injury have an impact. Justin Fields missed a couple games. Like Kyler, torn ACL. But like there's always going to be opinions on both sides of the coin here. But for me, what Trevor Lawrence is doing, and on top of this, you're adding in a potential wide receiver 1 in Calvin Ridley that essentially takes the place of Marvin Jones. Now you're trotting out Ridley, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk in the middle. Hopefully you bring back Evan Ingram.
Evan Ingram ain't going nowhere. He ain't an idiot.
You get a full year of Travis Etienne. Potentially they add another running back to play in tandem with him. And now you've got there's a ton of speed on this offense. And that's only going to make things so much easier, not only for Doug Peterson as a play caller, but Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback. And I am all the way in.
I like it. Josh, you touched on top 5 lists. So before we move on to the next game, guys, I'm going to put you both on the spot right here. And I haven't even looked at mine yet. I'll try to throw mine in here at the end. So if one of you wants to dive in, top 5 dynasty RBs heading into next season. So I don't know if either one of you is ready to dive in on this yet.
The number 1 is an easy Bijan Robinson for me.
No. I think he means the whole season or the active guys, top 5 dynasty, not just rookies.
Yeah.
Bijan. Yeah, I would throw Bijan into that. Yeah. He hasn't played it down, and I would throw him into that. Yes, he's that fucking good, Ryan. Watch some tape, brother. He is that fucking good.
What?
If you hold the 101, whether in 1 QB or Superflex leagues, Bijan Robinson at 101 is a must, and he is hands down the most valuable running back in Dynasty right now.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to buy like 19 other drivers for the league, the 3 months.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm not moving from the 101. Throw whatever at me. I'm taking Bijan Robinson at the 101.
Okay, my apologies.
He's my Dynasty 101.
Okay, keep going.
After that, I know it gets more muddled. I think I still like Jonathan Taylor. Christian McCaffrey in San Francisco's offense is just going to eat. And then we have the youngins from this class. Hopefully Breece Hall makes a full recovery from his injury. And I loved watching Kenneth Walker on the field. That might be my top 5.
So I would have went Hall and Walker is my 1 and 2. I don't think I would. Obviously, it's a running joke. I pay no attention to college football.
A running joke.
Yeah, a running joke. There you go. So I certainly don't think I would have put Bijan Robinson in my top 5. McCaffrey and Taylor. So we agree on all of that. I was struggling to come up with my 5th. If Tony Pollard ended up in the right spot, I'm super interested in what he could do if he just had a job to himself. Does Najee Harris ever bounce back? Are we writing off DeAndre Swift? So there's a few names in there that I wasn't 100% sure about, but you threw me off with Bijan Robinson. Josh, go ahead.
I mean, for me, it like some combination of Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Breece Hall. This may be a hot take, but I'm throwing Travis Etienne in that mix. Yeah, I love me some Kenneth Walker. I'm not discounting Saquon at all because we know what he's capable of. I mean, another 1,300 yards this year. Wasn't as involved in the passing game as I thought he would be, simply because they don't have any weapons at wide receiver. But the prevailing thought is the Giants are going to add some help at wide receiver, so that's going to keep Saquon's receiving numbers down, but his rushing attempts are still going to be up there. So, I think you can definitely make the case that Saquon is a top 5, at worst, a top 7 back. And I would definitely throw Kenneth Walker into that mix in top 7 as well.
So is Bijan the 101 in a super flex, boys?
Yes, he's the 101
in a super flex rookie draft.
That's what I mean. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. If I'm the 102, I'm praying that the 101 goes either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud.
Interesting.
I've seen Bijan just absolutely destroy Oklahoma's defense time and time again. He just looks incredible. He can catch. I mean, they're sending him on go routes. He's just the total package. Even if he goes somewhere where he might be the 1A, it's a committee. It doesn't matter. He'll win the job.
Yeah, obviously I need to do my homework on Bijan Robinson. We all know I have no draft picks, so I'm not.
That's why you haven't done your homework. You trade away all your draft picks.
That's why you're not paying attention to college. You don't pick until the 3rd round.
Can you guys tell me who the Bijan Robinson of the 3rd round might be? Because I'm gonna need him. I want to get a couple more things in here. First of all, George, don't apologize for being the co-host. I say this every single week. These shows suck if you guys don't participate. So please continue to participate. I'm not going to do anything with your screen name, but hello from Poland. Thank you so much for joining the show. We're happy to have you. My goodness. So yeah, Bijan Robinson, guys, he's apparently the truth. I'm not the first one to tell you that. I won't be the last. We're going to move on to Miami and Buffalo. Miami just barely loses this game, 34-31 to Buffalo. Biggest head scratcher of the game. This one was for me to cover. I just don't understand how the game was this close. And I've seen people defending, it was a divisional game. Miami knew what they were getting into. 3rd string rookie quarterback, and he still only had 1 touchdown and turned the ball over twice. However, the Buffalo defense allows 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals. Plus, there was a defensive touchdown by Miami. But more importantly, the Buffalo offense just looked out of sorts. And let me be clear, they have every reason as a team to be out of sorts. And I have another issue with this game, but they have every issue to be out of sorts. They turned the ball over 3 times. And Jalen Waddle was actually hurt in this game and had one atrocious drop and another pretty bad drop after that. Buffalo could have easily lost this game, and that's my biggest head scratcher. But as my second biggest head scratcher, I don't know whose decision this was. Why the fuck did the Bills not have the number 3 patch on their jerseys? Was this the NFL? Was this the Bills? Yeah. This is 2 weeks ago, and this guy is the heart and soul of your team, and that number was already off the jerseys, and I was jarred by that. Like, are we already moving on from this insane thing? And I'm not saying we need to spend any time on the DeMar Hamlin thing. It has had plenty of time, but I'm bothered by the patch not being there.
That's why they only won by 3, Ryan. They had to pay tribute.
Oh my God, Josh, how did I not make that connection? Chris, we call it the shot of espresso. What performance in this game got you going?
It's hard to go back to the well here, but Gabe Davis does this for us every playoffs. He just goes off 100+ touchdown. He looks great, and then he gets you tempted to draft him in fantasy the next year. But I'm just going to stick with the playoffs. He looks like a good wide receiver 2 for this matchup against the Bengals.
If you are in any playoff pool and don't pick Gabe Davis, you're just asking to lose.
Yeah,
you're just making a mistake at this point. I agree. He turns it on for these weeks. He knows what he's doing. Obviously, this Bengals-Bills rematch is going to be great, but who doesn't want to see Bills-Chiefs one more time with these wonderful new overtime rules, right, Chris?
Yes, I know you're a big fan of these rules, and you hated the last.
Let's be clear. I don't hate these rules at all. I just wasn't as down on the last set of rules as everybody else. Josh, who are we chilling the fuck out on in this game? By the way, I just want to throw out there, I was shocked to read your statement. I'm not as invested in Twitter as I once was. I did not.
Well, it's not even Twitter. Okay. It's not even Twitter. It's Facebook. It's so many other social media sites. Like, look, I live in Florida. I have friends of mine that are Dolphins fans. Like, I don't understand Dolphins fans calling for Mike McDaniel's job. I really don't. He has turned this team around. He's given them a sense of swagger. Their offense with a competent quarterback looks really fucking good. I mean, when you stack up Tua's stats, when healthy, against the rest of the league, you can make an argument he's the best fucking quarterback in the NFL. Just on a like a stats per game basis.
Words I never thought I would hear on a fantasy show.
I don't dislike Mike McDaniel here, but like, when you say to turn it around, it's just they transformed from a 9-8 team to a 9-8 team.
Well, but look at the quarterback carousel and look how bad this defense is. I mean, the defense has been really ravaged by injuries, and the play caller, Nate Boyer, I don't know whatever his name is, but like he did not make any adjustments to compensate for these injuries.
Nope.
Like, and I'll give him credit. The game plan here, like he brought the pressure and, you know, kind of left Xavier Howard and the other corners on an island. And you saw that with the big play early in the game, you know, Diggs just kind of flying by Howard. But I want to point this out really quick because I know that if we were talking about this on Wednesday, Joe would just go in on Xavier Howard. And I've seen comments here on Twitter where, you know, people are roasting Howard for getting burned. And, you know, even Darius Slay is like, look, when you call a cover 0, it's the defensive line's job and the linebacker.
They don't get to the quarterback.
They got to get to the quarterback. Yep. So as a corner, you're playing for the safe routes. You're playing for the underneath stuff. So if they get behind you, you're playing makeup. And that's just on, you know, the offense saying, you know what, we're going to take a chance here against this blitz coverage and not go for, you know, the short to intermediate. We're going for the whole shebang. So, you know, and Howard damn near made a play on this football. Yeah. Like his closing speed was really good. You just got to say hats off to Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs there. So I thought that was a really interesting nugget. But like the Dolphins' number one priority needs to be exactly what the Bengals did last offseason. They need to fix this offensive line. Joe Burrow combined in the regular season and the playoffs in 2021 got sacked 70 times this offensive line in Miami has gotten not one, not two, but 3 quarterbacks killed this season.
Yeah.
So if they don't fix this, yes, McDaniel will not have a job as a result. But that truly falls on the front office to bring these guys in, because they lost their first round pick, not just because of trading it for Bradley Chubb, but because of the Stephen Ross tampering with Tom Brady. So if you want to protect Tua, which McDaniel has come out and said, Tua's our quarterback, you've got to go out in free agency. You got to get the best that you can get, but you also need to scout these middle rounds and find these diamonds in the rough to fix your guard, center, tackle problems, because this offensive line needs some help. You got to protect that quarterback, whoever it is, whether it, hopefully it's Tua, because I do like the kid and I'm rooting for him, but I'm also really worried about his long-term health with all of these damn concussions.
Funny story. I've been seeing a lot of people's mock drafts. It's like pick 31 is the last pick of the first round. And in my head, I'm like, what is happening? But I was too scared to ask. But now that makes sense.
Now you know.
Chris, I'm a lot like you, and I almost went in on somebody for calling the Bears' second pick the 32nd overall pick. And I'm like, it's the 33rd, you fucking idiot. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, it's not. So George chimes in. Josh Allen has 30 turnovers combined this season between picks and fumbles. I'm just going to erase your last 2 words. Pretty concerning. It's not. They keep winning. He's Josh Allen. It is what it is. So I'll admit there are flat games. I'm not remotely concerned. Since we've been talking about quarterbacks, this is a good time to get a question in from George here. What do we think Jordan Love's trade value is? And he says not in fantasy. I'm not. I don't think it matters, because I don't think the Packers are trading him. But do you guys have any opinions on this?
I mean, I think he stays in Green Bay. I think he's going to be the quarterback next year. I don't know what this deal is with Aaron Rodgers, but I think that him and Green Bay they need to part ways. And I think that's pretty clear and evident after how this season played out. Rodgers, I don't understand why he was unwilling to work with these young rookie receivers and develop the timing that is so crucial between quarterbacks and wide receivers. And he's pretty clearly shown that all he cares about is himself. He's not wanting to win games. So I think at this point, move on, get what you can, go forward with Jordan Love, let Jordan Love work with these guys and figure out if he truly is the future. But in the event that Green Bay does some really dumb shit and say they're going to move on with Aaron Rodgers if he decides to come back, I think with Jordan Love, you're talking pretty similar with Trey Lance. Like, he's a guy that has first round draft capital. He's also a guy that really hasn't proven much in the few games that he has started. There's positives, but there's also negatives, right? So I think that you're probably looking at a scenario where, kind of similar with Sam Darnold, right? Sam Darnold was a former first-round pick. He flashed, but he also had some inconsistencies. What'd Carolina give up for him? It was a second and a mid-round pick. I think that's pretty fair value for what you could potentially see in a Jordan Love trade and also a Trey Lance trade.
The bigger question is, what would Carolina give up for Jordan Love?
No shit.
Do they have anything left to give up for?
All they do is accumulate former first-round quarterbacks.
The problem here with Jordan Love is he's already in his 5th year, so they already have to pick up his option or sign him to an extension. I guess that could hurt or help his hypothetical trade value, as you get financial flexibility, or you don't have a long-term commitment with this guy. But yeah, it's crazy that he's already in year 5.
Yeah, he'll be entering year 4 in 2023. But he is eligible to have the 5th.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
George thinks they're going to ride with Rodgers. He says the way the contracts deal and everything is done. So
maybe Rodgers will go to
interesting
Vegas.
Situation. Chris, get us out of the Miami Buffalo game with your fantasy takeaway for next year.
My fantasy takeaway for next year is just there was a lot of talk between, is it Waddle, is it Hill, is Hill too expensive? Waddle was the value play here, but Hill actually turned out to be the better play, as he even getting him at the end of the second round, he even exceeded that ADP. I think he was the number 2 or number 3 without looking wide receiver on the year between Justin Jefferson and Diggs. I think
Waddle was
both
wide receiver 9 on the full season.
Tyreek Hill was 2 in one fewer game than Jefferson. So
okay, so yeah, if he's going in the first round, take him. If he's going in the second round, take him. Waddle, if he's going in the second round, take him. I'm not going to worry about who it is. It's both of them.
Perfect. Chris, just keep us going. So we have Giants in Minnesota. Obviously, very exciting game, 31-24. Minnesota finally loses a close game. What was your head scratcher on this game?
First of all, I'm like, yes, finally. I've been dogging Minnesota for months now, going as a 13-4 team with a negative point differential.
Yeah.
My biggest takeaway here, it would be Minnesota needs a reliable second option, because they're going to have those games here and there with Justin Jefferson where he's going to have a lot of targets, he's going to have a lot of receptions, but the output is going to be low. They need someone that's going to stretch the field, similar to what Van Jefferson was doing for the Rams the previous season, for Cooper Kupp to work underneath. Obviously, Justin Jefferson can do both, but they need help.
He can't do both at the same time.
That's fair. But I mean, he's so good that like it's borderline. It's close.
It's fair. Yeah, no doubts at all. Josh, I love your quality performance out of this game.
Dude, and I love this nickname, Daniel Vanilla Vic Jones. Look, when I remember doing this draft show with Joe, I flew up to New Hampshire. We did it live together. When Dave Gettleman made the selection to pick Daniel Jones at number 6 for the Giants, I absolutely roasted not only this pick, but Daniel Jones. I thought he was a terrible college quarterback. I felt that it was another case of a bad team trying to, reach for a position of importance. And you know what? For the first 4 years, or 3 years really, I looked like a fucking genius because Daniel Jones looked like shit. Lo and behold, all it really was coaching, apparently, because Daniel Jones has played the part this year. He was a QB1, top 12 in fantasy this year. We know what he's capable of doing with his legs, and I think that Brian Daboll just leaned right into it. He had a very athletic quarterback in Josh Allen in Buffalo, and they utilized that to his advantage, and that's exactly what he's doing here with Daniel Jones. When you have a quarterback that can move the way that he can move, it opens up so many things for you on offense. And that's what's happening. I think Daniel Jones has only had 2 300-yard passing games on the season, and then he threw for 301 yesterday against a very bad Minnesota secondary, mind you, but 300 yards nonetheless.
Yeah,
but I will say,
predictable.
Yeah, it's very concerning though when your quarterback is out rushing your star running back, and I don't say star lightly. Saquon Barkley is a star. Saquon should have not just more, but way more rushing yards than your quarterback. But no, he should.
Well,
that was shocking to me, hearing that Daniel Jones was a QB1 this year. And I don't know if that's more of a testament to him or how bad the position was this year, because
welcome to the debate we've been having for weeks now.
He had 15 passing touchdowns and barely eclipsed 3,000 passing yards. He had his rushing touchdowns, but he's still, I don't know.
He was the QB12 in 6 point per passing. If you go to points per game, he was a QB2. He was QB16.
Yeah. George says, the Giants told him, go out there and prove it. We're not taking your option. And I think you can fairly say, especially with a playoff win now, that he went out and proved it. They're gonna have to pay him.
I love this stat. He has exactly the same number of playoff wins as Dak Prescott. Continue.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. but Prescott's anointed. That's very interesting. For my chill the fuck out, man, I'm happy for Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton and Richie James. But we just need to chill the fuck out on this ragtag bunch of Giants wide receivers. They were fun for this year. It's not happening again next year. They got to go out and get Daniel Jones, who they're about to pay a ton of money, some weapons. First and foremost, the only wide receivers on contract next season are Wan'Dale Robinson on his rookie deal, Isaiah Hodgins, who somehow has a 2-year deal, though he was picked up off of waivers. So I'm guessing that's still floating in from his rookie deal. And then Kenny Galladay. Kenny Galladay is due $21.4 million next year. It's a 14.8 dead cap hit if they cut him. He's gone. Though, Josh, I do want to bring up something we talked about in the before time of the show. Isaiah Hodgins is fun. He actually has really good size at 6'3", 205 pounds. He's also a 6th round pick who did not get his first target until week 5 of 2022, his 3rd year in the NFL. So he was the right man for the right moment, but I don't think he's going to be able to keep his job. This is a team that is going to need to sign 2 at least, if not 3 to 4 wide receivers. I'm obviously an anti-Wan'Dale Robinson guy. I think he's too small to play consistently. Brian Daboll needs to get his guys in this offense, and I just don't see really any of these guys repeating next year, though, Josh, you do see a role for Kenny Galladay in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, again, you need wide receivers that can block. He's showing that he can do that. We know his big frame. We know he can catch touchdowns. It's just a matter of he's not going to be the Stephon Diggs in this Brian Daboll offense, right? They're 2 very different types of receivers, but he could be a competent number 2. Like if they use him the same way that Daboll used Gabe Davis, the way that Ken Dorsey is using Gabe Davis, he can be the big wide receiver that gets down the field, albeit a little slower than Gabe Davis. But if you utilize him in these, 50-50 balls, the contested catch range, that's where Kenny Galladay can win you matchups in the right games.
But we need Daniel Jones to throw those balls because that was something we talked about.
Exactly. And that's why these two really have not gelled.
Or this signing never made sense from the rip.
It really never did. The whole idea was, well, again, Kenny Galladay is the quote unquote best wide receiver on the open market. So Gettleman's like, well, I'm just going to outbid everybody by $10 million. Like, no, that's dumb management. Absolutely dumb cap management. You get a wide receiver that fits what your quarterback needs, not what you want in your offense.
Like a Juju
exactly.
Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
Juju could be a great fit for this team. Absolutely. And to go back to your Isaiah Hodgins point, Buffalo drafted him.
Yeah.
Daboll has worked with Hodgins. That's why this was a perfect fit. And I think that Hodgins is still going to have a role next year. I don't know that it's going to be as big as the one that he has this year.
They're not the same type of player, but I see Hodgins in an Isaiah McKenzie role. I think they need to go get 2 real wide receivers and use Hodgins in an Isaiah McKenzie type role. Not, I guess, usage-wise, not or volume-wise, if you will. For my fantasy takeaway, Chris, I'm going to echo exactly what you had for the head scratcher. There needs to be legit concern about Justin Jefferson moving forward. Over the last 3 games, he's been quiet. That's not what you expect over a guy who there are arguments for him to be the 101 next year. Kirk Cousins could be a little bit of a problem. He's not peppering his alpha with targets. Stephon Diggs asked out of town in a situation similar to this. What's going to happen when Dalvin Cook, the wear and tear starts to get at him, and now you have 1 fewer weapon? These are the types of issues that if Kirk Cousins isn't willing to start force feeding Justin Jefferson for fantasy, that's already maybe not going to work for the Vikings in general. But if that doesn't start happening for fantasy, there are legit concerns about a guy who is going to be the 101 in some leagues next year.
I don't like that Stephon Diggs comparison. You're talking about 2 completely different offenses. Diggs never topped 95 targets in Minnesota.
Fair.
So, I mean, Jefferson doubled that this year. Like, he's getting plenty of targets and plenty of opportunities. Now, I do agree that they do need somebody more viable across from him because, again, we've talked about this. Adam Thielen, he's getting up there in age. He's not the same type of player. I could very easily see them either plucking somebody off of free agency or going the draft route. But, that's going to elevate KJ Osborne a little bit. I've said this before. I think TJ Hockenson ultimately is going to be the second option in this offense, working that underneath. But again, that's where Justin Jefferson lives. You need somebody that has the ability to take that top off of defense. I don't know that they have that right now. Osborne is good, but I don't think he can do that consistently.
Since that Green Bay game, like you said, 1 reception, 15 yards, 4 for 38, and 7 for 47. That's 100 yards in 3 games. They're rolling the safety to that to Justin Jefferson's side every time. People will make fun of Jair Alexander for that, but like that's smart defense. Like make them beat you with someone else. So I'll throw out the name Quentin Johnston from TCU as a possibility to pair with Justin Jefferson. How much do we think he makes with his extension? He's eligible to sign an extension.
I mean, Adams and Hill, I think, are around the $30 million a year, right? I think he's probably
he's got to blow by that, right?
Yeah, I mean, 35 at minimum.
I'm thinking 40.
Yeah,
5 years, 200 mil.
I mean, and that's what it is. Josh, I don't mean to compare him to Diggs at all because, like you said, completely different offense at the time. I just wonder his frustration level. I don't know Justin Jefferson's mindset where at some point you can't tell me he's not super pissed about playing with Kirk Cousins right now. So
I mean, losing a playoff game that you should very well win obviously hurts, but again, and
I think he only had 2 targets
for as much as we can pan Kirk Cousins all we want. This game wasn't on the offense. This game was on the defense. They gave up way too many points. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. At that point, your offense can only do so much. That play call on 4th and 8 was absolute atrocious. Why? Yeah. You need to get 8 yards. Why are you throwing the ball 3 yards downfield? It doesn't make any sense. Not even throwing the ball 3 yards downfield. Why are you running a route that's only 3 yards downfield? That makes 0 sense. It's just a bad, not only play design, but a bad play call.
Yep. I'm with that. Guys, let's get into the last game. We ended the night with another division game, Baltimore and Cincinnati. Cincinnati takes this game by a touchdown in what could be defined as an absolutely insane fourth quarter. Josh, talk to us about your head scratcher of the game.
So you have your number one running back, who basically is in a timeshare with Gus Edwards. J.K. Dobbins is averaging close to 5 yards per carry this entire game. He looks like the best player on the field, mind you, on both sides of the ball. You're 2 yards out, and you call a quarterback sneak where Tyler Huntley has to jump over the line to get this team a touchdown from 2 yards away. What?
Yeah.
Greg Roman, what are you doing? That was atrocious play calling. You have been calling the worst fucking plays in the league, mind you, for the last 3 years with an all-star quarterback, a MVP. You've had the number one rushing attack in the league in numerous occasions. You have a backup quarterback. Why are you relying on him to leap over defenders for 2 yards?
At the very least, you have what should be one of the most elite tight ends in fantasy or in football.
I mean, there's zero excuse for that play call. Zero excuse. And then it that completely swung the momentum of the entire game.
Yeah. Literally swung the momentum for
and Hubbard returns at 98 yards for a touchdown. Look, I'm all for the thick six. I'm all for the big man touchdown, but that play never should have happened because that play call never should have happened.
Yeah.
If Lamar comes back, they can't bring Greg Roman back. They just can't.
Agree.
You need an offensive coordinator that's going to help Lamar progress as a quarterback.
Because it seems like he's regressed.
He's going backwards.
Yeah.
He's going backwards in his development.
So, is Lamar back? Simple question. Is Lamar back?
I think so. I think they get it done. I don't see them trying to play this whole QB game again. Trying to patch veterans through like the Colts or Washington, Carolina. Either that or someone's willing to trade a bunch of picks away for him.
Yeah, but I mean, where does Baltimore go at that point if you move Lamar?
And that was what I was going to bring up.
I mean, and that's the big thing is you can't.
This guy.
I get it. The contract impasse. Lamar wants more guaranteed money than Deshaun Watson got, and rightfully so. You can make that case. He's won a playoff game. Deshaun Watson hasn't. He's won an MVP. Deshaun Watson hasn't.
Deshaun Watson has won one playoff game against the Bills. Josh Allen.
Oh, did he? Okay. Okay. Lamar has an MVP. Deshaun Watson doesn't.
Fair.
Deshaun one has a Heisman Trophy, the other doesn't. I know that really doesn't matter, but I'm just making points here. So, from an agent perspective, and I know Lamar represents himself, and the way that Lamar plays, the way that Greg Roman continually trots him out, Lamar, and we've seen this now 2 years in a row. He's missed 5 games each of the last years, 6 if you count this playoff game. he's trying to protect himself. This is life-changing money that's on the line for Lamar Jackson.
This is his most important contract by far.
1,000% it's his most important contract because, I mean, you saw with Cam Newton when he signed his second contract, he didn't really get a third, at least big contract anyway. So right now, this is Lamar trying to set himself up and his kids and his grandkids going forward. And I don't blame him one bit for not trying to push through this knee injury. RG3 tweeted yesterday about, what happened when he tried to push through his knee injury.
I could have went without seeing that picture again, by the way.
It basically ruined his entire career. And Lamar is basically in that same, situation right now. So, I don't blame him one bit, but, like Chris said, like you've said, like we've said, Greg Roman has to go. His style of offense right now, they need to evolve. And Roman is holding them back, and Lamar needs to grow as a passer for not only himself, but for the Ravens to justify giving him that kind of money.
Yep. One person who might miss Greg Roman, though, for my shot of espresso, J.K. Dobbins' efficiency has been nuts to end this year. If you look at the regular season, it was over 8 for like 2 consecutive games and then never lower than 4.9. He was at 4.8 in this game, and way more importantly for fantasy, got involved in the passing game, 5 targets and a receiving touchdown. I think there were a lot of questions, and we touched on this all season long about, what is J.K. Dobbins? Because we saw insane touchdown efficiency his rookie year. And then obviously the injury, and we just didn't know what we were going to get. J.K. Dobbins is that dude, and Josh, I know you're going to hit on this again in a second. J.K. Dobbins is that dude, and I'm not worried about Dobbins with or without Lamar. They rushed him back from injury, but we have now seen what he can look like when he is fully healthy. And I think J.K. Dobbins is a hell of a sleeper for fantasy football next year that you're likely to get in the late second, early third, maybe even fourth rounds. Obviously, it's rudimentary ADP right now, but I think Dobbins is going to be a really, really fun one for fantasy football next year. Chris, chill the fuck out. Who should we talk about for this game?
Probably the Bengals running game.
Yeah.
I just think the way that they play, guys like Mixon or, once they move on from him, they're always going to be a threat. They're always going to be hovering around the RB1. They put up a lot of points. There's a lot of opportunity. It just wasn't there this game. And I would say to chill out on extrapolating what that's going to mean in the future.
And I'm someone who needs to hear that because I am someone who bought in heavily on Mixon and started off very happy, most passing game usage in his entire career, but man, things have gotten rough over the last month. So I just went and looked at our mock draft from last Monday, which is a show that'll be back later. J.K. Dobbins went in the 6th round of that mock, and that's with the fresh in mind stuff. J.K. Dobbins could be an absolute steal in fantasy drafts next year.
Probably going to be in that dead zone. So
what'd you say?
He's probably going to be in the dead zone. So it's probably going to be a value.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited. Josh, final fantasy takeaway from the Bengals and the Ravens. Obviously, it's more Dobbins talk.
Yeah, I mean, J.K. Dobbins should be a top 15 RB next year in fantasy. I mean, that's plain and simple. He's got the juice back. This is one of the reasons why I loved him coming out of Ohio State. I felt like he had more long speed at Ohio State. I don't know if maybe just, the knee injuries this year have kind of sapped that the long speed side of his game. But we know he's capable in the passing game. This offense just doesn't really throw to running backs, but it was good to see him getting involved in the passing game Sunday. 4 catches, I believe it was 48 yards and a touchdown on 5 targets. But again, with backup quarterbacks, you're looking more underneath. You're looking for those safe bailout routes when the wide receiver one on that play call isn't open, which they're just trotting out guys off the street like Demarcus Robinson, Sammy Watkins. They've been on their couches at some point this offseason. So, with the injuries to Duvernay, with the injuries to, Rashad Bateman, both of them currently on IR, like they have nothing.
Hollywood.
Which, I mean, I guess I get it just from a sense that, you want to go forward with Rashad Bateman and you didn't want to pay Hollywood because you wanted enough, money on the cap to sign Lamar. But you haven't really made a concerted effort to sign Lamar, so why not keep the number one wide receiver in that offense?
And why not keep
what the fuck do I know?
Your quarterback's best friend? That was the part that bothered me, to find out that they are literally best friends. And you're like, we're trading this dude. And that just, something didn't sit well with me.
That's how you disrupt the chemistry in the locker room, plain and simple. And the belief in the coaching staff and the front office. And you know what? The season played out pretty much how I thought it would play out, sans the Lamar injury. The big thing though with Dobbins, and this is why I say top 15 and not top 12, right? We need more passing game work, which in this offense, in a Greg Roman offense, that is going to be limited.
Yep.
But I don't understand this 50-50 split right now between Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Like, Dobbins is the clear superior talent. And as much as I love Gus Edwards, he's not J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins is a better running back.
And he hasn't looked good this year.
No, he really, he's just kind of been plodding through it. But again, that's another guy that's coming off an ACL injury. So, and we know, especially with running backs, it typically takes like 2 full years before you truly get back to where you were. Not everybody's going to be Adrian Peterson. I still don't know how that guy rushed for over 2,000 yards coming off of an ACL injury. Blows my fucking mind. But the traditional running back will take a couple years. This will be next year for Dobbins and even Gus Edwards to a degree. But we have to hope, if you have Dobbins, if you're targeting Dobbins, you have to hope for more of a 60-40 plus split, right? Like, this whole 50-50 split thing with no passing work, it's just not going to work in fantasy purposes.
I agree. And I don't know why they didn't actually use them both more, because even though Edwards didn't look good yesterday, he still had 5 yards of carry.
Yeah, I went back and looked, Chris. I realized that it's more recency bias on that, because he hasn't looked good recently, like the last month. It's a Joe Mixon thing all over again, really.
And it's just like your best, well, besides Mark Andrews, your best 2 playmakers are probably your running backs. Like, it's like a Green Bay situation with like Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I don't know why their usage wasn't higher, to be honest.
Yeah, I like it. All right, before we talk about tonight's game and get us out of here with a preview for the rest of the playoffs, Josh, tell the people about our sponsor.
One more time, Club Fantasy's Monday Hangxiety, brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the ultimate in men's hygiene products, the Performance Package. The Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver groin deodorant, the Crop Reviver toner, the Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all of those goodies. These products are absolutely fantastic. The one thing that I love most, the trimmers themselves are waterproof, so it makes for easy cleaning. Yep. Reduces the risk of ingrown hairs and grooming accidents and nicks and cuts and all those good things. It can't say enough good things about it. And quite honestly, I would not be peddling a product that I personally didn't like. And the one thing that I love about this partnership, Manscaped doesn't want us to sugarcoat it. Yep. If it sucks, don't talk about it. Don't sell it, right? Because they believe in their product, and quite honestly, we believe in it too. So head over to manscaped.com, enter promo code CLUBFANTASY. When you go to checkout, you'll save yourself 20% off and get free shipping. Once again, that's manscaped.com. Use promo code CLUBFANTASY. Save 20% and get free shipping at manscaped.com.
All right. We still have one playoff game left. The Dallas Cowboys travel to Tampa to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Chris, what do you got happening tonight?
I know Tampa beat them earlier in the season, but given that they were 4-7 outside of their division, I'm going to go with Dallas in this one.
Josh?
So the Bucs are going to have their full secondary intact, I believe, for the first time all season. I think they've only played like 27 total snaps together. That's Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, and Sean Murphy-Bunting. Now, granted, I don't think any of those guys are truly elite, but when you get all three of them together, that helps. And that includes the 3 healthy safeties. Another piece of news, Ryan Jensen, the center for this team, was activated off of IR. So there's a good chance that he comes back. That is going to help exponentially, because Tom Brady, when he gets pressured up the middle, that's when he gets flustered big time.
And mad.
And mad, correct, yeah. And he's been getting pressured and been getting mad a lot this season. So you plug in the one guy that can ultimately help limit that. I'm going to take the Bucs. They're at home, and quite frankly, I think Dallas is immensely overrated. All it takes is one Dak Prescott interception, and lately that's been pretty much a guarantee. Yeah. So I think the Bucs can bring it. I'm
gonna agree with the Bucs, and I'm gonna go a step further. I think the Bucs could actually beat the 49ers next week as well. I think this Ryan Jensen coming back.
Chris's eyes just lit up when you said that.
I think Mike Evans is getting hot at the right time. I'm calling it for a Mike Evans game, and if there is a prop out there where you can bet on Dak Prescott throwing an interception tonight, you bet the fucking over on that prop, because that man has not seen a turnover he didn't fall in love with over the last few weeks.
My problem with the Bucs is what competition have they had in the last 2 months? They destroyed Carolina, and they were playing Atlanta. I mean,
that's fair. Dallas has played a much tougher schedule.
They still have Tom Brady throwing the football, so I'm going to go with Dallas here.
I like it. So just before we get out of here, Josh, who's your AFC and NFC champions? Our championship game matchup.
I mean, come on. Of course I'm going with the Eagles in the NFC. Duh.
No, but who are they playing?
AFC?
Out of the week. So Philly versus San Fran? Stick and chalk?
Yeah, so, I'm going to take Philly against San Francisco. I'm gonna go Chiefs against the Bills. The Bengals' offensive line issues, I think they came to a head yesterday. They were playing at one point with 3 backup linemen, and we know what happens when Burrow gets flustered like that. I still don't know how they ended up making the Super Bowl last year with all those issues, but even without Von Miller, the Bills are bringing enough pressure that I think it's gonna upset Burrow a little bit. But I'm gonna be honest with you. The Bengals winning, the Bills winning, neither of them looked remotely impressive yesterday. I don't know how the Chiefs don't just run away en route to the Super Bowl out of the AFC right now, because you could make a case that the Jaguars are probably the hottest team out of all 4 of these teams. And I think the Chiefs can pretty handedly take care of the Jaguars, although that will be a nice little matchup between Doug Peterson and his former mentor, Andy Reid there.
Looking forward to that one. Chris, you have any disagreements on the championship matchups?
Not in the NFC. In the AFC, go Jags, obviously.
I'm all for it.
I don't know. With the momentum, you never know. My mind says the Chiefs. My heart says Jacksonville.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go out on the limb there and say the Jags upset the Chiefs, and they travel to Buffalo.
Okay. I agree. Buffalo, Joe Burrow. I think Josh Allen got the wake-up call that Joe Burrow didn't. And so I think that's going to be the difference where Josh Allen played well, and now he knows he needs to play even better. So I agree with Buffalo. I do think it's going to be Kansas City, but I'm sticking with my prediction. I think it's going to be Tampa Bay taking on Philadelphia in the NFC Championship with the Kansas City Philadelphia Super Bowl is what I expect to see happen. Should be a fun one. Chris, first and foremost, thank you so much for spending your morning off with us. And I know it's even earlier out there on the West Coast. Thank you. Guys, you can follow Club Fantasy. The content is slowing down a little bit. For articles, we still have our betting and DFS articles every week going through the playoffs. We're still going to have our live Wednesday show where we're kind of taking a look back at 8 teams every single week. And Josh, it's what, 9 through 15?
9 through 16, I believe. Wednesday we'll be covering the Denver Broncos, the Seattle Seahawks, the Washington Commanders, the Minnesota Vikings, the Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens, Miami Dolphins, and the Indianapolis Colts.
And these are the way they finished the 2021 season. This is the same order we talked about them coming into this season, just so there's no confusion. And then on Thursday, we like accountability here at Club Fantasy. We are going to be talking our running back rankings, our preseason rankings. We're going to look at what we did well with and what we certainly didn't do well with. If you missed it, we just did our quarterback show this past week, so make sure you go check that recording out. I think that's everything. Josh, any parting words for everybody?
I do not. For those that tune in to Her Story in the Making with Britt Flynn, the initial goal, we were going to have a show on the 24th of this month, so basically next week. That's actually going to get pushed to the February 7th. It's still going to be with Lauren Carpenter. So
perfect.
Got a few weeks off there to give a little mental break for people, and let some people enjoy their time off. And
I like
to take care of my people. So
yep. Well, we thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in. We will be back next Monday to go over the playoffs. We're live Wednesdays and Thursdays. Make sure you guys still ride with Club Fantasy. We did cross 500 followers, so look out for that drawing coming up soon where we're going to have a nice little raffle.
We'll do that on Wednesday.
I figured that would be on Wednesday. Everybody enjoy your Monday. Thank you. Have a good weekend.